Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pundit's Pundit. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, back on the air tonight. Yesterday, I had to deal with a medical condition, and I think part of my issue was when you tell your doctor to go out there and subscribe to your YouTube channel, he knows you're high energy. He's going to tell you, you got to take the night off because you have too much anesthesia. But guess what? He said, I can come back, and I am on the hook for two. Before I get to you guys, though, I do want to spend a special birthday greeting to my late mother, Shilamorganroth, who died a couple of years ago, and actually in 2020. She would have been 82 today. So what we're going to do here on Pundit's Pundit is we're going to dedicate Pundit's Pundit to my late mother, Shilamorganroth. Rest in peace, Mom. I love you. I miss you. And you're in the book, and you're in our hearts, and then you're in our minds. So with that said, we'll get down to business. And yeah, let me tell you guys a little funny story about that yesterday. So I get out of recovery, okay, from the whole thing. Everything goes good, but you can't go on. But you know what? He asked me, who are the Miami Hurricanes going to get for a quarterback since tylervandyke? And I told him who I thought he was going to get. And I'll tell you what, I'll divulge that name in this episode because it's one of the guys we're going to be talking about. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Denzel Snipes, and he'll go ahead and lead the show.
All right, this is Denzel Snipes. You can catch me on Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch. Of course, as you can see at the top right-hand side of the screen, you will see as a logo Scott's brand new book. So, Scott, you got to bring it up just a little bit.
In fact, you know what, Denzel? Let me go ahead and let everybody know this right away. Okay?
Let it rip.
I want to let everybody know that Pundit's Pundit being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Also, please comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call, 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Tribune South. Candy Ambling's behind the scenes. And yes, the book that's located in the right-hand corner is my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, and really give you a Cliff Notes version. It's old school media versus new school is what it is. And we talk about some of the bigger names that have come in contact and haven't come in contact that provide lessons. And one of our favorites is Jacob knows with Frank Reynolds. So that should get you there, old school versus new school. And now back to you, Denzel.
Yeah, yes, definitely go and pick it up. It's right there to the left side of Uncle George's left ear. Pick it up. It's awesome. It's hot. It's brand new, and it's got
and it's on Amazon and Kindle. Thanks.
Amazon and Kindle. Very informative. Please go and pick this up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, gentlemen. Our first topic of the night: David Carr and the stupid taking gen of journalism. Okay, so to those of y'all who don't know, he's a former number one pick for my Houston Texans. He's now an NFL analyst. After the Texans, he kind of bounced around as a backup quarterback. Actually ended up winning a Super Bowl ring with the 07 New York Giants. And so recently he stated that the Eagles should actually bench Jalenhurts for Marcusmariota. And then after the backlash, he doubled down and said, whoa, hang on. All I'm saying is it's for Hurts to get some rest because he had a knee injury and everything like that. Now, keep in mind, he's saying this, and as of right now, the Eagles are 10-2. Jalen Hurts is probably an MVP frontrunner, if not top 3. And he's saying, and here's the thing, people can't get past what I just said, and I don't blame them. Jalen Hurts is the reason that they're 10-2. Why would you go to Mariota? You know, at this point, it's like blatantly obvious. There's got to be one on the panel that's got to be the shock analyst or the shock journalist. But at what line is shock from just plain old idiotry? I'm going to pass it on to Jacob and get your thoughts on this.
That's the whole point I bring up all the time about ESPN, about, let me just say this, CNN, the Foxes, everybody has always got to be, and I know no question in my mind that there's the producers causing this. You always have, instead of people, they are afraid of people agreeing all the time and people watching being bored, but you can still have a great conversation if everybody's agreeing. But this is the thing. It's completely obvious that Jalen Hurts is the man. Completely obvious of all of this. And it's like, I'm not going to say that David Carr took too many hits, even though he took a lot of hits. 72 sacks in 1 year. I'm not going to say he took too many hits and he's completely, basically off the beaten path. I'm not going to say that, or he's out to lunch. But I am going to say he's with ESPN, he's getting paid, and he's being told what to say. I will say this. They're being, maybe they don't say it by words, but it's basically Vince. Between you and I, will know this, Denzel. We know this reference. It's Vince McMahon yelling in the ear what to say next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's what to say next to the announcers. This is exactly what that is. And it's like, and the thing is, that's not journalism. That's not anything. It's like I love sideline sports, even we're a startup where everything, sideline sports and South Florida. It's a startup, it's everything. It's a combination of new ones and the veterans. And I love you all for it. And it's like, and you don't ever tell me what to say. And I love you all for it.
Yep. Creative control is a very beautiful thing, and you bring up the Vince McMahon thing, and it's like, yeah, he's kind of telling the producers what to say next or announcers what to say next and everything. And well, you kind of know that led to a fan outcry of him being ousted of the WWE. You know what I mean? But I want to swing this over to Scott and get your thoughts about this. Now, you spent 40 plus years in this field, so I know you've come across some characters behind the microphone who have said similar things, done similar things. You know what? I'll just let you go ahead and grab the floor and get your thoughts about this.
Yeah, well, number one, Jacob, okay. Everybody's going to say what they want anyways because it's free speech, okay? So let's get that there. So whatever you want to call mainstream media, get away, man. Because you know what? Any monkey can get a microphone these days. I'm not putting the industry down. But that's why we have podcasting. Unlike George Eichhorn and I, who had to do things the old-fashioned way, we had to earn it over at terrestrial radio. Now, as for David Carr, okay, once upon a time during Christmas, Philadelphia people threw snowballs at Santa Claus, okay? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to Philadelphia and they throw snowballs at David Carr. Now, okay, let's face the reality. And I will say this much about it, okay? When you go over to Houston, maybe he does have brain damage with all the beatings that he took anyway. So I'm going to kind of give him a little mulligan there because when you get too many hits, unfortunately, it does distort the brain a little bit. But really, marcusmariota, a journeyman quarterback who's the number 2 quarterback selected, and he's moved around a little bit. Rhonda, I love you. I don't know if I can calm down, but I love you anyways. She's one of my buddies out in Canada. You're the best, man. I'm telling you, I can't put it up there. This lady's great. Calm down. I wish I knew how. Andy's been
and
trying.
her sister, Toronto.
I got the best woman. Rhonda's my buddy in Canada, and I got Candy. It works out good.
Good line, Jacob.
Yeah, but the reality of the decision. Oh, shuck. There you go, Rhonda. Looking forward to seeing you in Orlando when you get back down here again. But really, the reality of the situation is this, okay? David Carr gets paid to commentate, okay? Jacob, myself, George, and Denzel are looking forward to eventually getting paid a whole lot more to commentate, okay? But this guy had an NFL career. And, what goes up goes down. The problem is he went down a lot when you talk about the Houston Texans called an offensive line, which is like shredded cheddar, okay? Or anything you want to put the shredder, whether it's paper in the paper shredder, David Carr was like a paper shredder. So what do I think of the comments? It's typical journalism. You get a guy behind the microphone, they're going to say whatever they want, whether it makes any sense at all. And guess what? It doesn't make any sense at all. Like Jacob said, only I took the longer version to talk about it. Now, knowing that I've been on a lot of pain pills the last 2 or 3 months here because of the fact that I've had a lot of different illnesses, I'll tell you what, give me all that anesthesia and all that tramadol and all that business, then anything will say what they want. And yes, Montreal, I know about the Montreal Wets, and we actually ended up putting out there on social media and mentioning it as we previewed the show. So There you go. And I was pulling for Montreal anyways, Rhonda. Not only because I like them, but I was trying to get into good grace of Montreal fans since I did do their hockey team many years ago. Any favors? Don't want to get into that now. Otherwise, there'll be more hate mail to me, as there will be another individual in the show. Bottom line is journalism, Jacob. It doesn't matter. You give a guy a microphone, what's he going to say? Anything that he's going to get heads rolling, right? Clicks, as Mario Cristobal would say.
But really quickly, who's the clicks from the producers of ESPN or from Carr himself? Who's thinking of it?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
I was asking who's thinking of the clicks by itself. Is it Carr? Is it the ESPN people?
Oh,
that's all I'm
asking. Of both. Yeah, Rhonda. I know Montreal's won 24 Stanley Cups, but it's been a while since they won the last one. But we'll see one of these days if they can get back there. But I definitely know you guys are very good. Okay, yeah, it could be a combination of both, Jacob. It really could.
Yeah.
That sounds fair. Probably more so.
He's definitely not Eric Severide.
I'm leaning more towards the ESPN side, seeing as that's entity versus one person. Just my take on it, you know. But hey, round us out with Uncle George up there. Let's see what you got with this one. Same thing. You spent a long time in this field. You know, what have you seen? What are your thoughts about this right here?
Well, you know, everybody is told in this kind of field to be controversial if they see an issue and hop on it. Okay. But he overreacted to something that was a ridiculous overreaction on his part. Yeah, the guy lost the game, and yeah, they got beat soundly 42-19. But Jalenhurts should not be on the bench. There's no way in heck. And of course, social media reacts to everything. But you guys got to put this into context. You know that producers and directors want these guys to be a little bit controversial. Not that they expected him to say that, but don't forget, you know. He's got a bug up as you know what, because he was ranked as the 8th worst #1 overall pick in NFL draft history. He was sacked 267 times.
Right.
There could be a few things, and I don't wish this on the guy, but there could be some things going on with that. We don't know. We know about the concussion,
right.
Concussions, how they affect different NFL players. But for him to go on the air and say something like that, which is ludicrous, like he says, Dens, this is a guy that's an MVP candidate right now. And you are certainly not going to ride a backup quarterback when you're going for the overall record, the best record in the league, which we all know now is a competition. It brought Philadelphia back one game closer to San Francisco, to Detroit, to Dallas. You know, so that loss, that hurt no question it hurt the Eagles. But for him to go on there and insinuate just because he was having trouble reading the defenses that Jalenhurts should be riding the pine, no way at all.
All right, George, but let me tell you this, though, okay? Philadelphia has a history of this, all right? Let's face the reality. When Carson Wentz went down and he got hurt, okay, and Nick Foles took over and got him to a Super Bowl, I'm not saying that what David Carr said right, but you have a history there of a backup leading him. Now, and the only way I put Jalenhurts on the bench is if the game is out of control to prevent the guy from getting hurt. Then you have to do it and let Mariota finish it. But that organization has a history where Wentz went down, Nick Foles won it all. So I think that, you know, Carr is wrong, but you got to remember the Eagles' history a little bit too, though.
Before you continue, I hear what you're saying. But Marcus Mariota doesn't exactly have a deep history of being in the postseason.
Right.
I know that. I'm just saying. All I'm doing is making a point of what took place with Philadelphia Eagles history. I wouldn't put him in there. Are you nuts? Really? I wouldn't. I'm just saying you're talking about the Eagles history and what got them their lone Super Bowl. That's it.
True. Jake, you was going to say something?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things we got to think of also is, we think of context. You brought up context, George. Think of all of this for a second. When was the last time we had an undefeated all the way through the season? That was the Miami Dolphins, 1972. John Shiro will tell us this all the time, obviously. But it's like that was those things. But we haven't. But we were closest. What was the closest? What was that? 2007. That it was almost.
18-1.
If you get the context of it all, every single fan completely falls apart the minute they lose. Completely falls apart. They completely, oh my God, we're going to die after a loss.
The sky is falling. Good loss. The sky is falling. Yeah.
Yeah, they fall apart. And it's like they're not thinking in context. They're drunk or they bet and they lost. Yep. It's like, and that's sort of the biggest thing is, but see, when you are going toward those people and you're trying to get their money and trying to get them to watch, they're stupid. You want to get smart people watching. I'm sorry. It's like the smart people have money to spend. This is what people don't seem to understand. They keep trying to get the stupid people. The smart people have the money to spend, but they don't seem to get this. They're trying to get the now instead of the long term.
Yeah. George, do you have anything to wrap the topic up?
Well, you mentioned about his record, Mariota. He's 62.5 completion, 15,000 yards in his career, 92 touchdowns and 54 interceptions. I just checked them out. I mean, we're not saying he's a bum as a quarterback, but he does not obviously deserve a starting job. No way in heck. But I just wanted to be fair to him and look up his stats. Yeah.
Well, first of all, George, if he deserved a starting job, don't you think he would have had it by now anyways?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. I mean, it's not like starting jobs are hard to get with these quarterbacks dropping like dominoes.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a silly remark. And David Carr, I believe, was just going for glamour and controversy, whatever else he was seeking.
Well, then he got it.
He got it.
As we move on to the next topic, right? Denzel?
He definitely got it. Yeah, we're going to move on to our next topic here. And our next topic is Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord, who has announced that he actually is utilizing the transfer portal. Where he's going is, of course, unknown at this time. This past season for Ohio State, he had 3,170 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 65.8 completion percentage. He led Ohio State to an 11-1 record. And it's been said that he is transferring possibly due to a Puerto reason, due to receiving death threats following the loss to Michigan. That was Ohio State's third straight loss to the University of Michigan. And, I'll just say this much. First of all, the problem isn't Kyle McCord. The problem is Ryanday. That starts at the top. I don't care who you are. You lost 3 straight, and I know that's your hated rival, but you lost 3 straight to him. I mean, come on now. They was putting Harbaugh under fire for losing that many times to Ohio State before he finally started winning. But you think the problem is the quarterback? 65.8 completion percentage, 24-6, 3,000 plus passing yards. How is this not on the coach? I sat there and watched that same coach. I watched the Peach Bowl back in January where the only quarterback, Georgia, the eventual champion, had trouble with all season long was C.J. Stroud. He did what he wanted with that defense. And C.J. Stroud did everything he could to win that game. It was Coach Day's play calling that had that kid attempt a 50-plus yard field goal that went wide left. I mean, come on now. At some point in time, when you start looking at the coach, I'm not saying the coach is terrible, but obviously a few screws are loose, within that play calling. And Kyle McCord, looking at the stats, obviously is not the problem. So I just want to give it to Jacob, give the floor to him, and get your thoughts about this.
The other thing with Kyle McCord is the fact that there's a set of fans that are told, whether by media or on social media by others. It's kind of like high school. They're told who's cool. And they're told who's cool, who's this, who's that. You got to remember, they are literally trying to say online, a bunch of people that would never have a woman a day in their life because they're on 24/7. They are telling us that these guys can't get women. Quarterbacks, they're saying that they're dorks. They were saying that Brock Purdy's a geek. They're talking that he's a geek because he was a farm kid. These types of morons. And then he loses. And I can promise you, C.J. Stroud did not get a death threat. Not one. It's like, but it's the idea of what's cool. And this is the point I'm trying to say. You cannot listen. I'm talking about programs. I'm talking about the franchises in the NFL. Got to quit listening to fans. They're not going to go away if you're winning. You have this fear that if you say something about them, if you say what I'm saying now, that they're not going to come. Yes, they will. There's still the beer. There's still the camaraderie. There's still the tailgate. And if you win, they're all going to come no matter what. They're just going to hate you. That's the ego problem you have. Don't care. Just go to winning. You know what I'm saying? Go to winning. And it's like, and guess what? They were 11-1 with him. And then as far as everything else, you're threatening a kid.
Yeah.
You're threatening a kid's life because you lost your money in that game.
Right.
That's what that is. It was the betting. You lost money in that game. And it wasn't that bad of a game to begin with. And you know, Ohio State, they're probably going to win the next thing, but it's not going to be Kyle anymore. But who's the next whipping boy?
Yeah, who is? Who is indeed? You know, I mean, I get it. There's a standard there at that program. Well, if that's the case, then you probably should tell the coach that because, again, it starts at the top. You know, I'm not blaming Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord's been more than solid all year. I'm not saying he was a Heisman candidate, but he was far from trash. Obviously, 11-1. You know,
yeah.
But I'm going to swing it over to Scott and get your thoughts about this. And I don't know, maybe in the idea where you think he may land or what you think the ultimate.
All right, well, there you go. I'm cutting you off right now. This is a continuation of my doctor, okay, at the hospital, okay. He asked me, who do you think the Miami Hurricanes would land? Well, Tylervandyke isn't there anymore. He's in the transfer portal. I'd love to see him get Kyle McCord. That's who I would like to see him get. He'd be appreciated in Miami. Mark my word. He would be a game manager here. We're starting to develop a very good running attack here down in Miami. So I think he'd be fine in Miami, but he could end up a lot of different places. But I would love to see him with the Miami Hurricanes. No,
Six picks all year. Six picks all year for a team. I mean, especially a team like Miami had a little bit of turnovers. Six picks is not bad.
And he's a first-year starter.
But hear me out, Jacob. Hold on a minute, okay? This interruption by Jacob. Jacob Crisser is presented by, never mind. He already knows the drill. Okay. But I don't want to put my name on it. Otherwise, I could get him to laugh all day long. No, seriously speaking, though, I would love to see him land with the Hurricanes. He can go wherever he wants. He's a top-notch quarterback that's played top-notch competition in the Big Ten. And again, when my doctor asked me, the first name that came to mind after anesthesia was the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah. Well, small question for you before you continue. If Kyle McCord did go to the Hurricanes, would he be the best quarterback in the ACC?
I don't know about that. We'll have to see. Because there's so much college turnover right now, you never know where the dominoes are going to drop by the time we hit February and we hit spring practice. But, you know, one of my old when we talk about this segue versus what I had, as Paul Harvey was saying, I give you the rest of the story. And how many times did we have to deal with that, George? Paul Harvey, the rest of the story before we had sports talk at WXYC.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, but I think that's a fair question. I think it'll be more of a fair question, Denzel, probably in the spring.
Okay. That sounds good. We may just, revisit it. I'll say this much, and alluding to what, Jacob said. And, okay, you didn't bring it up in these exact words. I'm going to just say it's the spoiled fans mindset.
Right.
We've seen it from, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just going to name some examples. We've seen it from Alabama fans. We've seen it from, some Cowboys fans, Steelers, Patriots, what the Steelers and Patriots are playing right now. It comes from, spoiled fan bases, why they even do things like this. And it's really terrible because on one aspect, it does. And you mentioned the betting thing, and I can recall watching the 30 for 30 on the Miami Hurricanes, as a matter of fact. Right. And, some of these guys were coming from the inner city in Miami, and where pretty much the only positive thing was high school football, and local drug dealers would bet on the game, So now they're going into this game with this fear, like, oh shoot, like I can't lose. That guy's got a lot of power, and I know what he's capable of. And if I lose and he's got a lot of money on the line, I could be in some trouble, I guess it's one of those things where, when it comes to gambling, if gambling is the context here, and Ohio State losing cost whoever a lot of money. It's like, where's the fine line? But also at the same time, I would tell them, no one held a gun to your head and make you bet your rent money. Nobody held a gun to your head and make you bet your insurance money. Nobody held a gun to your head and make you bet your next paycheck. That was free will. That was all you, And if you don't have it to bet, don't bet it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what, Denzel? Easier said than done.
And here's the thing about the bet, what you talked about with these idiots. I'm going to call them idiots. Here's the thing. Bet their rent money. Let's just say they win. That the other part of that money ain't going to the rent.
Yeah.
They're going to spend it somewhere else. They're just impulsive because they're like children.
Yeah,
well, let me give you a little piece of gambling history about me many years ago. When I got married many years ago out in Lake Tahoe, I was probably the one person that the casinos didn't like because every time I won something, I bought me a Caesar's Tahoe leather jacket instead of giving it back to them. So if I could spend it on souvenirs, I was okay with it. And I still have that jacket somewhere in my closet. So, or I bought shirts. I didn't mean to give it back to them. And all I ever did was play the slots, by the way.
No, I get you. All right, George, it's on you. You got the mic. What are your thoughts about the whole Kyle McCord situation?
Well, I think it's total ridiculous. If people are threatening this young man, this is really bad. And obviously, he took it so seriously that within hours, practically, of losing to Michigan, decides to go into the portal. It's a sad day for OSU football. I'm sorry to lose a kid of that kind of ability. One of the commentators, as you guys know, that was trying to do a hot take was R.J. Young of Fox. And he was trying to say that McCord was even better than J.J. McCarthy of the Michigan Wolverines. Well, statistically, J.J. had it on McCord this year. But I'll tell you what, like you said, Denzel, 11-1. I mean, they had a tremendous season. He's a young man that really showed me a lot of promise, a lot of moxie during the season. Wasn't easy. Taking a team, a powerhouse like Ohio State, and rattle off those victories. But again, the craziness is in college football, what have you done for me lately? And when it comes to Michigan and Ohio State, that's always going to be the benchmark. As you guys said earlier, Harbaugh was not doing it against Ohio State. Neither were his predecessors very much. You have to go back to Lloyd Carr probably to see some more consistency against Ohio State. True. That being said, with them losing 3 in a row, that definitely is a hot seat and a hot button item. But boy, oh boy, that is a sick society if we're having people threatening this young man and his family and his school, whatever. That is ridiculous. I mean, McCord did a heck of a job. He has really nothing to be ashamed of. Oh, yeah, I know the game was lost, but still. He was a tremendous addition to the Ohio State staff today. So again, overreacting people. And, when you unpack this thing, it's just a sad commentary on the pressure that these people, gamblers, fans, whatever you want to call themselves, derelicts, maybe some of them are more derelict on this young man. But I hope. Now, Scott, if he doesn't go to Miami, don't forget about Michigan. Because if J.J. McCarthy jumps to the NFL, which a lot of people think he will if they win the national title, he's probably going to be gone. I mean, then would Harbaugh even take a look at Kyle for a possible successor?
Well, you know what, George, that's an interesting point because it's not uncommon for Ohio State to pluck an assistant coach from Michigan over there.
True.
So I don't think it's an unrealistic possibility, but we have to understand whether Harbaugh is going to be there or not first before we even talk about it. Because what I've heard is Michigan's working hard to extend Harbaugh with $11 million.
$11 million, yep.
Right. So he made a decision whether or not he's going to go out there and go back. And now I've also heard Eric Bieniemy is a candidate to go to the Chicago Bears after that season. So that'll be playing out later on. I don't want to get us off track with the broadcast, but these are pertinent facts here that will play out as time goes on. But I remember there was a defensive coach. I'm trying to remember who it was. I don't even care. It's not worth it. That ended up going from Michigan to Ohio State. Okay. Yep. So I could see it, but we'll let it play out. And
we'll let it play out. Exactly.
Didn't Bo Schembechler coach at both schools?
No.
No,
No,
because
it was
in
just
Ohio, but
Ohio
not
State. My bad.
at Ohio State.
I thought maybe he was an assistant at the other also. Okay, go ahead, Jacob.
No. One thing that we have a problem with the whole kylemccord situation is every fan is expecting to forget. Another thing with context, and it should be another title someday. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like context. Not every quarterback is going to be what they call Caleb Williams. Not every quarterback is the first round pick. Not every quarterback is the star. Some of them they live off of a defense and being part of a team. Probably the majority. But fans are too endowed with fantasy football, and they want to look cool to their buddies. All I care about myself is winning and whatever it takes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Well, that's how we said the best college football is now being it's like a minor league system, good minor league system for the NFL. I mean, you know, so many things are out of control, but that's another story for another day about college football.
Yeah, I totally get it. Well, we are at the 30-minute mark. It's a great time to segue into our third topic, and that is the dangers of constant use of drones in sports. So, doing a little digging about this one, so there was actually a drone that was seen earlier this year at an Ohio State, Maryland game in October, and once it was spotted, play was suspended. The pilot of it was arrested. He was facing multiple charges, but police determined that there was no malicious intent. Federal law actually prohibits drones flying over sporting events. However, it continues to happen. But on a technical note, yes, it is prohibited by federal law. FBI Director Christopher Wray actually said that in 2022, the FBI investigated multiple instances of people attempting to weaponize drones. So, swinging over to Jacob in this one, and I want to get your thoughts about this.
Let me give you this part. During the remember the war in '91, with Iraq. We remember all of that kind of situation. There was all of the fear. There was fears of like the Super Bowl and all the other big events, just because of who could come in and blow everything up, who could start a war there. But you want to know what they did is what they were able to do by something like this is they were able to get $5 to $10 million worth of security, and they could be able to tell who might have been someone wrong. They might be able to tell every little situation. Let's ask questions. Let's see who is suspicious. In '91, because there wasn't a lot of our electronics like we see now. There wasn't. But there's a couple of different things that become a problem now with something like this, drones and everything like that. Like in the '91, when you could see something like this, you could kind of have a suspicion, and guess what? The suspicions sometimes were true. Now, you get the suspicion, and you get online, and people will say, oh, you would have done that if that was a white guy. Whatever ridiculousness that somebody will bring up. They'll do that. And then the second thing, the drones. The drones, you can do all of the 10 million of security or 15 million of security if you want to. Who do you know? How do you know that those drones don't start something in the middle of a Super Bowl?
True.
And the thing is, you can do all the work. You get everybody sat and you got the clear bags. And you have all of that stuff. You can think of every bit of that. But what if you didn't get the drone at the end, and that can come from miles away? And those are where the problem. It looks so nice right now. It looks so cool, but it's the new world. And personally, to me, I'm for the helicopter with a shot, because at least you can see that coming.
Yeah.
And personally, to me, like I said, I think of the when I see the old shots of like Cowboy Stadium, the chopper over.
Yeah.
I just think it's a better shot. It's a slower shot. Like you get a drone, it's zoom. You see it, and it's like it's clearer, it's everything. But that's the point. But now with drones, they can do everything. And that's the thing about this is like everybody wants what's clear. Everything wants what's fancy now.
Yeah, what's fancy. Typically what the military uses, because a lot of technology, let's face it, it came from the Department of Defense, and they're just modernizing it now. But I want to take it over to Scott and get your thoughts about drones and sporting events. Scary deal?
The only thing I've ever known in sporting events, okay, is a Goodyear blimp, okay? I've always enjoyed that. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know enough about drones to really fully comment on this because it's relatively new to me. Maybe if I ever decide I want to figure it out, I can readdress it. But to me, the only thing that belongs at a sporting event is the Goodyear blimp. We all know about it. It's history, drones. I don't know. I need more time on this one.
Totally understandable. I mean, we all, grew up on the Goodyear blimp. And then also, Jacob, that whenever there'd be like a WWF pay-per-view and there was a mini blimp that would go around the arena that had like 1-800-COLLECT on it or something like that. Like, yeah.
Well, George, you brought this up with me, and I wanted to give you that. I wanted to give you this thing because I've given Scott one, I've given Denzel thing. I wanted to give you the time with this. You brought this up, but my issue with the drone deal is the fact that it's like, how many different uses could you have with all the electronics now, and what you could do? Like, I still think of the old Super Bowl of like '91, Buffalo and New York Giants. They were thinking of canceling that Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Just because of of all the threats because of the war. And it's like here's the thing: we have other than COVID, we've had less of these thought processes to cancel, but we have more things to cause havoc. That's all I'm meaning by that, Scott. I was just thinking of the possible ways of being havoc with our world now.
Well, come on, Jacob. Let's be real. This world's crazy as it is.
Exactly.
But let me tell you, when you sent astronauts to the in outer space, you think they really cared about a drone? Satellites? Really? Astronauts. Right. We're talking about the real day, the Johnson Space Center, the Kennedy Space Center. Drones? Really? Want to get me going? Drones? Really?
Right.
Send them to the moon. Let's get a drone. Let's take a picture of what these people are, if there are any up there in the first place. Neil Armstrong? Okay, who's the other one? Who's the guy that landed on the moon? Was it first? John Glenn?
Buzz Aldrin and Lee Armstrong.
All right, well, I'll bet these guys never cared about a drone, and they'll probably never know one if they're in heaven, so leave it at that.
Well, my whole thing on this one is that these already are weapons. They're already weapons, okay? They are dangerous to me because they're already being used in the Russian-Ukrainian war. They're being used in the Hamas-Israel war right now. You hear about this stuff in the news. These are the weapons. Now, the question is, are you, as a sports fan, are you confident that the police or the U.S. Armed Forces will be able to save or prevent this from happening at a stadium? I'm not confident. These things are flying all over the place. Oh, yeah, they look pretty when they make words in the sky. They make, beautiful pictures, and you can shoot them up there. Okay, I get all that. It's a technical advancement. But when these countries start using this as a weapon, which they are doing now, and I'm not taking sides, please, folks, on either one of the wars. But the fact of the matter is they are dangerous. But we don't have 24/7 surveillance at every sporting event. I mean, we don't. I mean, yeah, this could be a problem down the road. But I mean, if you go to a game and you're worried about that, I mean, you just can't. You got to enjoy the game, have fun. And, I guess we just need more, like Scott said, we need more time on this to see.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I'll say this, sorry, Denzel. I'll say this part. It's like, remember, we left 3 months of sports with COVID. You know what I'm saying? With COVID, that took 3 months away. You want to know what we have now? Outside of Soldier Field that still uses cash left, every stadium around is cashless. Every stadium. It's like there's all these advancements. There's all these advancements in like Hallis Hall with touchless areas. Everybody, and it's like now we've got the drones. But in the midst of, because of all this, we don't have the same cancellations anymore. But like I said, and you're right, Scott. The world's nuts as it is, but there's more options of chaos because you don't have to be there in person to do it anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Very true. Well,
and what did you think, Denzel? You were at war. What do you think of this?
You know what? I'm leaning more toward George on this one because these things are technological advances, and it's the very thing you use for combat, So whenever you see one buzzing over the state, there's a reason why they suspended play. When it happened at the Ohio State Maryland game, like those things can be dangerous because that's the thing. It could be something friendly or it could be something dangerous. Like you don't know what's going on. Y'all said it. There's 2 wars going on right now. You don't know who's an insider threat. You don't know whoever whoever might be, working for the other side that's right here, that's drafting up a drone that's going to fly it over some stadium and it has a gun on it. You know what I mean? These things are inherently dangerous. So, there's a reason the FBI has prohibited it. It's against federal law, and this is why. Now, people still do it.
Well, Candy Ebling says sign stealing to a whole new level. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you're right, Candy.
I want to start. Can I do an off the top of my head thing for a second? Since you're right, we need to.
Yeah, but just make sure your second doesn't turn into.
We're gonna have time. We're gonna have some time. I just wanted to ask you this. I wanted to ask you guys this. We're bringing this whole thing up. We brought this up about journalism. This is one of our things tonight and how we can get it. I wanted to ask you this. What was because you studied journalism, Denzel. Mm-hmm. You studied journalism. All of you've been to journalism. What do you think was the high points of journalism? We'll do the next 5-6 minutes for this. What do you think is the high points of journalism in your lifetime? I want to ask you, Scott. Start with you. You and George are the man.
What the high points of journalism? You might want to give me a little clarity on.
Well, let's see. Let's, for instance, who was your favorite? CBS, NBC. You said Frank Reynolds. You said just those type of things, like things that you've learned from the very best.
I mean, the good ones make sure you get it right, and they do all the research that they have, and they make sure that they're very, very strong in how they communicate with the people around them. I mean, Walter Cronkite is a friendly guy, and he's obviously iconic, but guys like Frank Reynolds don't get enough respect because they're passionate and they want to make sure they've got to do. So I think the high point of any journalist is who you end up watching and who represents himself with the most objective way possible and demonstrates integrity. Jacob, I don't know if there's a real high point to really describe in journalism. It's about getting it right, getting it accurate, and doing the necessary things that don't give journalism a bad name.
Right. And say to both of you, do you guys miss what was it called, the rip and read, like when you had the printers and you ripped it off the red?
The ticker, yeah. United Press International and Associated Press would have these tickers that run in the newsrooms.
Right.
So Scott and I would go and get. Well, ours was all sports, so we would go in that, and then we would give those to the host usually to announce the stories. But for me, high point of journalism. I am looking at things like the Pentagon Papers. I'm looking at Watergate, when the New York Times and Washington Post, they blew these stories that were being kept secret. And I know I'm bringing up politics, but I'm just saying that distinguished journalism because they were doing the investigation that the American public wanted. To me, that was the high point of journalism. And also, I think, let's be honest, when we saw Jim McKay handle the murderous situation and Peter Jennings in Munich, Germany at the Olympics, and the Jewish people were killed. Terrible disruption of the Munich Games. I mean, that was high for me personally as journalism. And I mean, obviously when they went on the air when Kennedy was shot, I mean, back in '63, but I was too young for that, and when Reagan was shot, I mean, they went wall to wall coverage. So I think when those big events happen, but I agree with Scott. I mean, there are certain individuals who were Sam Donaldson, always wanted to get the story right. Frank Reynolds, you mentioned. Barbara Walters, she would read through the BS when she did her interviews with people. So I hold those people, in high esteem.
Yeah, Jacob, I want to make sure that you understand, okay? And I think George and I are trying to make sure you and Denzel do understand it, okay? And that's this, okay? You talk about individuals more than the platforms. Because remember, they're the delivery people. Yep. They're the vessels. And it's where the message comes from and credibility. Unfortunately, as you always say, Jacob, you want to get back to that. Good luck. Can you imagine what Watergate would have been like, or the President Reagan attempt, or Kennedy would have been like with social media? Oh my gosh, you can blow up a planet with that stuff.
One of the problems I have with social media is the fact that we are now in the point that we're seeing 50% of the world cheering for a presidential assassination. And the problem with the presidential assassination is that the world would just collapse off it. With that fact that it's like they're the leader of the free world. They don't understand because it's emotion.
Yeah. It definitely is emotion.
And what about yours, Denzel?
Man, honestly, that probably was more of a question for Scott and George because I graduated 2 years ago. But I will say this much, and it was something that my professors passed on to us pretty much from day one, and that is that if you are inaccurate, and you know, y'all mentioned the Barbara Walters and the Dan Rathers and like that, you know, Frank Reynolds and everybody, right? So with that being said, you know, they were sure in telling us that, you know, all you need to be is inaccurate one time about a big topic, and that could be it. You know, that's either it for you or you got a big, you know, ditch to climb yourself out of. You know what I mean? Right. So we pride ourselves on being accurate and everything, not jumping to conclusions so much. Granted, yeah, you're gonna have your shock jocks, you're gonna have your Rush Limbaugh types and all of them out there, right? Your Joe Rogans, all of them. Like, that's gonna happen, you know? So there's no need in letting it bother you, get on your skin or anything like that. Don't consider them rivals or anything. Just preach your news. Just put out there what you're supposed to put out, pretty much. You
Absolutely.
know,
and I just wanted to bring
fairness and accuracy and neutral. That means apolitical. That means not choosing sides.
And before we got to our thing, I just wanted to be able to get, because the journalism has been, I've been studying the journalism so much. That's been my thing. You know, like the late, you know, the 1968 right now, all that kind of stuff going on. I just wanted to bring that up to the thing because there's a lot I've been learning from it. And I just wanted to have a little conversation on the thing by itself. It was a lot of fun. But it's like, I know very well that we have to get to our final shot.
Yeah, but Jacob, this is the kind of thing, with all due respect, okay, you can actually make a topic out of what you're trying to do. You're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole here, and we don't mind addressing it, but you might want to look at it down the road. If you really want to elaborate on this, this would be a topic that we could really go into much more.
Let's do a part two sometime. Let's do a part two.
So right now, okay, we don't need curveballs. You only see them in baseball, not in broadcasting.
Right.
And you obviously found the ability to throw one tonight, Jacob.
Well, no, you're right. Let's get to our final stuff. You know that, Denzel.
Point. Denzel, I'll take over, okay? Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to have our pundit's point. That's what we usually do at the end of the broadcast. So, George, give me your pundit's point.
My pundit's point, I'll be quick, Scott, is, you know, the overemphasis on these baseball winter meetings. Okay, everybody makes a big deal about these winter meetings. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Okay, so there was a good announcement. Detroit-wise, obviously, their former manager became a Hall of Famer. That's reserved for the winter meetings. But and I know the Yankees and Bo Sox, there were some trades that went on, obviously big trades. Soto was signed and traded over to the Yankees. But I think there's overhype. Baseball and the baseball writers especially, they overhype these winter meetings. Don't get me wrong. And I know Scott's been there. I've never been there. But, I mean, I know they're very important for people trying to get into the business or looking for new jobs and opportunities in baseball. Right. That I get. But the constant bombardment about, well, the Tigers didn't do anything today, right, or the Guardians didn't do anything in the draft, Rule 5. I mean, to me, it's just overhyping. Excuse me. Have your meetings, but you can settle down the hype for baseball off season. Thank you. That's my pundit's point.
All right, you know what, Jacob? We got to let you go second because there's a margin of error with you that you might go over, and I'll try to keep mine short and sweet so we keep everything.
You won't need to worry about me because the pundit point I was making tonight, it was that I thank you for telling me about the curveball, but I wanted to make this. I wanted to make this as a simple deal. You brought up about the Jim McKay and all of that going on. Everybody trying. Frank Reynolds, you bring up all the time. Peter Jennings trying to. We had this thing at one time. This is actually the era, and this is my pundit point for journalism. This is actually the era where we can have the chance of being more right than we ever did because we have more of the factual thing and we have more options than we ever had for the stuff right now for the right kind of deal. But because it didn't come right away, but we don't have that now. We don't have it now. It's everybody wants the chaos. And the way we got to get away from the chaos is one person, somewhere, somehow, whether it's in sports, whether it's in news, whether it's politics or anything, has got to be the one just to be quiet and give it, then someone else will follow.
Okay, Denzel.
All right. So, real quick. So my pundit point is Oregon and Oregon State are actually finalizing a deal to keep the Civil War rivalry game going in 2024 and beyond, which is actually really great news because I'm a fan of rivalry games. even if I don't particularly care about either team, or I'm all right with both teams, or if it's one of them's my team or anything like that. It just feels different. You know what I mean? Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, UCLA, whichever. But it's really great because in the midst of this whole bidding war, conference realignment that's seeing California go to the ACC, a Pacific school, going to an Atlantic conference. Are you kidding me? Then my Scott, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? My Scott intimidation? Come on now, that doesn't make any sense. But Oregon is headed to the Big Ten, or the B1G, as Jacob will put it. And Oregon State is to join the Mountain West Conference, meaning not officially, but they're going to play 6 of the teams next year. But it was great. It was great. I like seeing that both of them are going to keep the rivalry going, and that is what college football needs, even if the Big Ten just relocates to Asia, which they'll probably do in 10 years.
All right. Well, that leaves me. Also, I should point out a news story that's been developing all day. Manny Diaz, a former Miami Hurricanes coach, they're looking at him possibly taking over the head coaching job over at Duke University to replace Mike Elko. That isn't my pundit's point. That's just called a fact. So there you go. So my pundit's point is pretty straightforward. The Detroit Pistons are 62-195 with Troy Weaver as a general manager and a .241 winning percentage. Okay, get that. Okay, the Lions are 31-84, a .270 winning percentage under mattmillen. Tomgores. Okay, I don't think you're on the sleeping medication that I'm on, even though it never works half the time, anyways. But wake up, Tommy. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you hear me? No, you don't want me singing. I'll break up the your memory class. But you need to get Troy Weaver out of there. Otherwise, your franchise is going to be a dumpster fire. Only George could probably tell me what they're drawing over at Little Caesars. I can't imagine a whole lot.
No. The figures are inflated, though, Scott. You know that. That's a great pundit point, though. You're spot on.
Come on, let's get realistic. If you're talking about mattmillen, this is bad. I mean, let's be realistic. But Troy Weaver, we thought this guy was a credible guy out of Oklahoma City doing good things. And what have we gotten? The worst of Troy Weaver. Even Charlie Weaver from the Hollywood Squares could do better than this guy.
Charlie Weaver. Nice.
Yeah, all right. I mean, it's true, though. Charlie Weaver from the Hollywood Squares. Anybody remember it? Does anybody remember Sanford's son? Really?
Absolutely.
Seriously?
Oh, Charlie Weaver, you kidding me? Him or Paul Lynn? One of the two.
Yeah, I know. But the point is put Charlie Weaver in there, Troy Weaver, and getting it done. All right. With that said, this is the point of the broadcast where everybody can let everybody know they get a hold of them. And just coming up at the top of the hour, fire up with myself, George Eichhorn, Jeremy Ballrick, Damon Knight, and whoever pops in. I think that's the crew for Fire Up. All right, George, lead off.
All right. Now you can follow me on the South Florida Tribune. I write out of the Motor City Tribune, covering activities here in Detroit and Michigan. I do have a book, so if you're interested in that book, there's a link at the end of my column that you'll read online if you care to purchase one, covering the history of Detroit sports broadcasting, and Scott's in the book as well. And you can reach me at gichorn@yahoo.com and on Twitter at sandgsports99, and follow me also on Inside the Pigskin 108 Stitches, this wonderful show, Pundit's Pundit, and Fire Up and Sports Exchange. And what a great network to be involved in. Thanks to Scott and Candy and all you guys, Denzel, and you too, Jacob.
Okay, Denzel, you're next.
All right. As you see on the handle, Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch. Also, Denzel Snipes on Facebook. Nelly Nell 13 on X or Twitter. Of course, here Pundit's Pundit Thursdays, Mondays Top Rope Talk with Jacob Christner. Wednesdays, the Gauntlet presents Picked Off NFL Weekly Picks with the Gauntlet crew. Also, the Gauntlet on Fridays. Sideline Sports, South Florida Tribune.
All right, Jacob Cliff Notes.
The South Florida Tribune. The South Florida Tribune, 3 shows, 2 shows with the Sideline Sports. Jake the Pundit on Twitter, Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok. Also, just got a final audition, a final call for another possible movie. I'll let you guys know if I get it.
No problem. Right. I wish you well. I hope you do. All right. Finally, just so you know, okay, Pundit's Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're looking for more subscribers. Please also comment like and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @Tribune South. X whatever. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. Also, my new book called Lessons from the Microphone is now available on Amazon and Kindle. And it's actually tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. Basically, to make a long story short, I really talk about old school media versus new school media. One of the people that is prominently mentioned in that particular book, it does happen to be Frank Reynolds as well. So, it's a good combination of old people, and some of, when you folks purchase it, I'm sure that there will be a lot of national names that everybody can definitely go out there and recognize. Glad to have the crew back. Obviously, we were out in Milwaukee last Wednesday, but we're back in our normal time slot on Thursday. I do want to have a programming note. I know it's a little ways out, but there will be no broadcast running from December 25th to January 2nd. Everybody needs a little bit of a break, and that includes us. So, but we have plenty of things going on. And even though whether we're broadcasting out, we have plenty in the archives to make sure that you can watch those. So meanwhile, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Jacob Christner, and Denzel Sipes, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Pundits Pundit. Fire Up is next.